Hey everyone. So today is going to be a fun video, especially for me, because this is something I've been wanting to do ever since I got my hands on both of these. Now, I have personally bought the sE4400As studio condenser mics, which is kind of SE Electronics' version of the legendary AKG 414. Now, the place I work at my church, they bought a pair of the Warm Audio WA14s, which is Warm Audio's version of the AKG C414. So I have both of these today, and with me primarily being a drummer, we're going to try them out as overheads and as tom mics. But before we get into them, let's take a look at the small details of each. The sE4400As come with a 10 and 20 dB pad, a low frequency roll-off, and they have 4 polar pickup patterns of omni, figure 8, cardioid, and hypercardioid. The WA14 also has a 10 and 20 dB pad and only has cardioid, omni, and figure 8 polar pickup patterns, and they do not come in a matched pair. Enough talking about the actual physical mics and how they look and all. Let's get into an actual session here. So I've already pre-recorded drum tracks. I did full mic'd kit with both of them as overheads, so that way you can hear them as just overheads, but also with a fully mic'd up drum kit. Now, the one thing too is that I set them both into their 10 dB pad and cardioid to just make them fair. I did panning, I did gain stage and all that, but there are absolutely no plugins, no EQs, no compression, no gates, no nothing. These are 100% raw tracks, which I'm going to also try and put the full raw tracks down below, just so that way you guys can mess with them yourself. I can't guarantee they'll be there, but I will try. This span on the master track, it is just a frequency graph plugin. It has no effect on the actual sound of this. So let's start off. Full mix of the 4400As. Very punchy, it's a well-balanced kit, actually. But now, let's just hear just the 4400As. These are a very clean sounding overhead pair. You get a lot of just nice tom attack. As there's not too much depth to them, but there's just a lot of just nice tack to where now with the close tom mics, just get them to just sound fat and warm, and just blend them, and it's going to be a really good sound. And the kicks are surprisingly, even with the low pass filters off, you're not getting that much kick, which is kind of nice, which now means that when those are engaged, you'll get much less a kick, but that also means I have to do less in post, which is what I like. I think the 4400As are going to be a really EQ friendly mic. But now, let's head on to the WA14s. Very good, but before we talk more, just the WA14s. Okay, so the toms on the WA14s, just them and mixed in with the close mics are phenomenal. There's not as much attack, but the pure just depth and the balls of them, they sound really meaty. And even the snare just has a little bit more bite to it. Now, there is definitely more kick. And where you might run into problems on this mic is that there is no low pass filter. So if you don't want as much tom or as much kick in your overhead mics, you're going to have to do quite a bit more post EQ to get all that working. But the WA14s are like the perfect just vintage. I only have 4 mic pre's, so I need the most I can get. If you need to mic up a full drum kit and you've only got 4 mic channels, get the WA14s and go maybe Recorderman or Glenn Johns. You're going to get a killer tone. If you can spare like 8-10 channels for drum kit, I think the 4400As are going to be a little bit more even sounding, because the one thing I noticed as well with the WA14s, at least in my ears and on my monitors, because I was listening to all this on those earlier, the ride, especially mine, which is a Constantinople, the ride on the WA14s became a little bit too much. Like, it's not necessarily horrible, but I wish it would just be drawn back just a little bit. And that's something else that you gotta do in post. I am someone that I want the best sound I can possibly get at the source. If I can make it sound fantastic before post, great. I have less work. Awesome. But now, let's get into the toms here. So let's first do the 4400As on toms, and I recorded just them. I did not record kick. I did not record overheads or anything else. And there are kick drum hits being played during this, and I do a crash hit at the end to just see how much external drum and cymbal bleed that we get. And they are both set again into cardioid, and I put the 20 dB pad on. So let's first hear the 4400As. I could barely hear kick. And that cymbal crash bleed is actually not bad. That's pretty good. But then the physical tom sound themselves, it's a very balanced sound. You've got some lows, which does make it sound full, but you also get a nice top end attack. Like the 4400As are a very balanced mic, just like on overheads as well on the toms. Now let's go to the WA14s on just toms. Surprisingly, there was a little less cymbal bleed on the WA14s, but I imagine if I put the 4400As into hypercardioid or supercardioid, whichever one it's called, it would probably be a very similar result. The kick drum was still just not as present. Again. But the difference I hear in the WA14s, there's not as much attack, but there's a lot more bottom end growl. And there's just more fullness and fatness than on the 4400As. To where I would argue, if you put the 4400As as your overheads and put the WA14s as your tom mics, and you blended them, you would get a really killer tom tone. And your toms would sound just really meaty and just really punchy. But yeah, I'm inclined to like more the WA14s, just a hair on the toms, just because I prefer that tone and that depth, and they are slightly more colored, which for toms I don't mind. But still, though, the 4400As are still great. Both of these, let's bring them back up. Both of these mics are really good mics. Both of them, for a pair, cost $1,000 US. It really comes down to a personal taste. Like, there are situations where the WA14s, I would use those. There are situations to where the 4400As, I would use those. And that's kind of what makes recording so much fun, is that there's so many options out there that once you start hitting a certain price point, there's really no good or bad. There's more, I can get this color or I can get this color. It doesn't matter. So let me know down below which one you prefer more. I like them both. They're both great mics. You really can't go wrong with either. They're one. I personally am, well, since I bought the 4400As, those are going to be my primaries, but I also have access to the WA14, so I might bring them back every now and then, especially on certain TINA projects, but really, they're both great mics. So I hope you learned something today, and if you were looking at both of these mics or for drum overheads around that price range, I hope this helps you kind of hear and kind of help you decide what you should buy. So until next time, take care.